Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 61 of Shrigleytube TV. Thank you as always for all the comments in the comment section. Enjoy reading all of those. Yep, I still haven't got around to replying to them. I'm really sorry. I will do at some point. I just been a bit of a busy one with time off work, etc. So it's been a busy week. I hope you enjoy what you see and come back next week to see some more. All right, have a great week. I'll look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Bye for now. Okay, good morning, YouTubers. We have a visitor in the workshop. This is his 998 engine that he's built himself. I supplied him a kit of parts to build it up. His name's Scott. Welcome to Shrigleytube, Scott.
How are we doing?
Yeah, very well. Thanks for agreeing to come on here and talk to us and the viewers. I'll start with basics. I always go and I say, like, why a Hillman? You're obviously quite young. How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. Wow, I remember when I was 25. A long time ago. Anyway, what's the attraction, mate? Why have you got a Hillman?
Well, it was James Ibbotson that really sparked it for me on Instagram. And then I started to look for an imp when I was 21. I managed to persuade my dad to buy me a rusty wreck.
Right.
And he did. And then from there it's history, really. I welded in all the panels, painted it, got it going. But, yeah.
Inspired by James Ibbotson.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Well done, James. You got Scott. He's well and truly hooked. Can we have a picture of your car, Scott? I'll just zoom in. Look at that beastie. It's got a bib spoiler. E-Reg 67.
Yep.
Steel wheels. Lovely. And it's got a 998 that has a, what's best described?
Slight tap.
A slight tap.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it can't be hard. It's only nuts and bolts. So what I thought we'd do with the viewers is we'll whiz it apart and try and see if we can see what's causing the problem, and then we'll put it back together, put it on the dyno, and then get you on the M6 by 3 o'clock.
Yes, we'll hope so.
Excellent. And is this the lovely Kayla behind you here? You've never been on YouTube before, have you, Kayla?
I haven't, no.
Just what is this you're doing here?
Knitting for my sister.
Wow, that's impressive stuff. That, you know, I wish my missus had learned to knit. That'd be awesome. Keep her out of mischief.
Engineering jumpers next.
Yeah, she could make all the gear for Shrigleytube, couldn't she? She could do like a t-shirt or a polo neck. Yeah, brilliant. Right, well done there. Right, I'm gonna crack on, get this apart, and we'll see what we see. Right, okay. Scott's very kindly agreed to hold the camera whilst I try and explain what's gone on here. Now, I supplied Scott a kit of bits, and a bit of it's not an oversight on my, well, it is an oversight on my behalf, because when you supply a kit of bits, you never know where to start and stop with interfering. So what's basically happened is, because he was using a head gasket, I haven't been concerned too much about piston height, because the head gasket's like a mil thick. So the piston can be, I don't know, 10 thou proud, and you just still have 30 thou clearance between the piston at top dead centre and the head. But on this particular occasion, the piston has turned out to be 30 thou proud of the block at TDC. So when we took the head off, I thought I'd covered all bases by putting the chamfer on the top of the piston for you so that it could never nibble the edge of the head gasket at TDC. But if we just zoom in down here, we just saw a tiny witness mark just round the outside there, didn't we? And then, if you look at number 4, you look at the carbon, we can see the shape of the chamber there on the top where it shadowed it because it's got so close. Now this tapping noise that you're hearing, like you say, if you turn the engine over at spanner speed, just going round and round, it's smooth as anything. But as soon as you fire it up, and we've got the stretch taken into account, so when the piston's pushing against the gases to compress them, it's always pushing down on the crank. But when it comes up on the exhaust stroke and the exhaust valve's open, it carries on going and has to be pulled back down by the crank because there's no compression there. So on the exhaust stroke, I suspect we've just been getting, I mean, it's not even left a witness mark really, apart from that tiny little line there. So it's really close, but we're basically 30 thou here and about 44 thou here. So we've got about 14 thou clearance, and an imp needs a minimum of 20 thou to keep it quiet. So what we'll do is we'll pull your pistons out. We're gonna whiz 30 thou off. We'll leave a little intruder in the middle, and then put it all back together again. Put it on the dyno for dinner time, and then send you on your way. All right, tubers, we're just putting Scott's engine back together and thought I'd do a quick update. All I've done is I've put the pistons in a lathe and I've basically machined the land there so that the piston will no longer stick out the top of the block at top dead centre. I've left the centre so we can just keep the compression, because we're always fighting for compression with the Hillman engine, so made a little intruder there. So nice to see that you've got a decent set of lead copper bearings, Scott. I don't know where you got them from, and you've got ARP 2000 bolts, which is nice. So nice set of rods. So we'll get this back together and hopefully we'll get a tune out of it before our dinner. Another little interruption on the reassembly of Scott's engine. This is the Maynard M14 camshaft that we're going to fit in it. He's already bought this and it's already ran with that, and I just thought I'd make a quick video because Scott, what do you do as a job, Scott?
I'm a design engineer for a plastics injection and moulding company.
And what is this wonderful thing we've got here? Can you show us it?
Little 3D printed shim case.
Oh, mate. You should sell them to the Hillman gang.
Well, maybe, but not many people travel with shims. It's more in the engine, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I'd have one off you. No, that's lovely, that. What a lovely bit of kit. Brilliant. Right, we'll get this put back together and hopefully it won't be too long now before fire up. Right, we're pleased to report that we've put the engine back together. It's just gone past dinner time now. The grey glue hasn't even gone dry on the sump, and it's actually oil tight, isn't it, Scott?
Yeah.
But it's the noise has disappeared now, so it's quite sweet, quite fresh. It's got some good oil pressure, which the crank was a known quantity with the bearings as well, so all that was good beforehand. So just the noise we were trying to fix, which is now gone. So I've just been in there, you just probably saw on the video. I just went in and gave it what I call a dizzy swing, which is to just hold it wide open throttle, and I started by retarding it to see what it did to the torque, and then I literally went back to where I thought it would want it, and I could see that it was happier. So it's starting with 10, it's running to about 35 degrees max advance, ignition advance. So what we're going to do next is we're going to run this, and we're just going to go back to 5,000, hold it wide open throttle, and then we're going to shut it down. We haven't got lambda on this, and I'm not running with my Webbers. I know where I am, I can tell exactly what they want, but because it's on the downdraft 2836, I could do with having a quick look at plug colour. Looking at the torque it's doing, I'd say it's not far off, but we'll just double check together. So I'll wind it up now. So we'll just let it, I think peak torque's about 4.5. Hold it there for a minute. Doing a good 70 foot-pound. That's good, that. My mate Scott with the for the spec of the engine anyway. Right, brilliant. I'll go and take the plugs out and have a look. See what. Right, we've just interrupted the dyno session to come and have a quick look, because we haven't got any lambda set up on this, at the plug colour, and I'd say, looking at the plugs there, that the fueling is pretty good, Scott. I'm not concerned about it in the slightest. If you were going circuit racing, then we'd probably want to put lambda on it and make sure it is as good as I think it is. But I can tell by to do 70 foot-pounds of torque at that RPM with this sort of, we did measure the compression ratio. It was 10.4 to 1. I think it's doing okay. Have you got any thoughts?
Very happy altogether. It's cured the tap in, so we're all good there. And happy to see that it's ran okay on the dyno. That's the main thing.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Right, well, what we'll do is we'll put these plugs back in again. We'll give it a last run, and then we'll get you boxed up and back in your car, and you can join the M62 traffic jam.
Yeah, be brilliant. Thank you very much, Andy.
No worries. Right, we're just going to do the final run now that we've done the plug check. We're going to let it hang on to no more than like 6 or 6.5 and just see how many horsepower it's got. The torque's quite good. I'll load it up down below now. We'll see what it's got. It's very friendly. It's using the 2836 Weber on the banana type manifold, and it's got a lovely Will Parry 4x2x1 large bore exhaust the dyno. It's about 50 foot-pound there at 2.5. The shaft was having a good rattle. So at 3.8, 4,000, still doing 70 foot-pound. I just realised I've got to turn the pump on to make this work. Right, sorry about that. Just put an extra pump on now, a water pump, to make the dyno react better at lower RPM. So we go wide open now, 2.5, about 55 foot-pound. I'll just back him right off. Scott's chose to buy a 123 ignition distributor on it, so he's got real good control of his advance. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button here. The wide open throttle at 1400, 1500 RPM is still knocking on for 50 foot-pound. It's really friendly. That's because you've got the small carb on it. This is the Maynard M14 cam, so this should be a nice driver. We'll just have to see how it hangs on at 6.5 and that, but with your standard sport valves, it's all sort of working well with the airspeed it's got on the carburettor size. You know, if you want to go twin 40s eventually, then we'll do something more with the head so you can make use of the air you've got available then. Right, we'll let go of it now. So 5.5, so pulling off now, 6.5. Yeah, I think I saw about 57 at 6.5. Let's just see what that is quickly on the calculator. 57 foot-pound multiplied by 6500 equals that, divided by 5252. 70 horsepower.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. But you got good torque, and you got good torque from idle,
Yeah.
so for your little
you
fast road imp, it'll be a nice little engine, this pal.
Nice one.
Cool. Good morning, YouTubers. I thought, as we've not done a great deal of videoing of machining this week, I'd do a video just with an update of where I'm up to, because obviously these engines will come to fruition at some point on the dyno, so I thought we'd just do a bit of a talk about them and just various points. So this engine belongs to a very patient customer called Noel. Cracking lad. He's been busy with other things, I've been busy, so he's just been put on the back burner a few times, but it's come to that point now where I think the car's in paint, so he's itching to get his engine. So I've had a bit of a push on it. This is a Talbot Sunbeam 930 block that he supplied, and I have put top hat dry liner 74mm liners in. These are the ones we turned the other day on the spigot in the lathe. So that's all straightforward. 1040cc, my favourite capacity for a Hillman, I think, because you know, cost for these horsepower, that's the most cost effective route. This is his big port, big valve head. All I've done to this is I have welded it there, where they sometimes crack across the top here. Respot faced all the tops of the where the head bolts go. It's an iron guide with K-liners in it. I've drilled all the chambers for support, so the next thing will be is we put a support screw in that goes all the way underneath, so that when we tighten the head down, the Wills ring can't make this area sink, because it's a big hollow underneath here and there's a lot of pressure on the Wills ring. So I've cut the seats. It's on 1.3, 1.125, bit of a D-shroud in the chamber, and obviously it's been machined for Wills rings. So that's that one. So I'll just put the phone down and we'll move on to the next. Okay, moving to the next engine that we've been working on. This is the 1200cc engine, the long rodded one that I've been building. This is a bit exciting for me because it's the first time I've done this particular spec of engine. So this one is going to have the ideal rod to stroke ratio of 2 to 1 on a long stroke crank, which we've got here. This is the Farndon steel crank. Now you might remember we machined the liners the other week, and I was machining the recess in the top here for the oil gallery. We talked about that briefly. Obviously I've glued it all together now. Now there's a chap called Kit from Down Under, and he watches every week, bless him, and he always asks me the question, can I go through how to do all this? Now I'm really sorry, Kit, but there's like certain bits I just need to keep to myself, because they took a lot of messing to get right, and I don't really want to be sharing it with the world on YouTube. So hope you understand. It's not rocket science, it's just a bit of glue and some clearances, and the whole lot goes together, and then you can deck it, bore it, hone it, and it becomes a finished item. So that, when I build it up with these longer rods, we'll have the correct deck height, because I've measured all that. What to talk about was, this is the TTV flywheel that I've got for it, the Farndon long stroke crankshaft, and this is the front pulley that's going to drive the alternator, because it doesn't run a water pump because it has an electric water pump. Now this is the trigger because this engine is going on electronic fuel injection, so I've made that to go on the back of there, which will sit on the back of the front pulley there. The chap has very kindly sent me the crank sensor, so we're going to have to make a bracket to put that on the front. But the reason I've gone to all this messing is because I've suddenly thought to myself, crikey, there's no point balancing the crankshaft and then finding out where this is what they call a 36-1 crank trigger, but obviously we've got a tooth missing there. So I spoke to the bloke who does the fuel injection, and he said, look, we can put the offset anywhere in, so don't worry about that, you just pin this to this and make it all correct. So we'll do this gap 90 degrees before top dead center, so it sees the sensor. What happens is, sorry, I shouldn't really go on like this because I've not explained how it works. Rather than have a distributor to fire the engine, it uses a crank sensor, so the brains need to know where the engine is in relationship to everything else. So it counts the teeth and then the missing tooth, and then it sends a signal basically, and that's what triggers the ECU to say, right, it's at top dead center or wherever it is, you know. But the point of all this is, the crank is balanced and so is the flywheel, but when we put this on with a missing peg, it'll obviously be out of balance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry build it with the crankshaft and the front pulley on, work out where this wants to be to get it in the right place in relationship to where I mount the crank sensor, and then we'll drill and tap that so it's rigid on there. We'll go and see Bob next week and get it all balanced, and then we can get on with the build. I've got the rods, I've got the pistons, the head needs some work, the head bolts have arrived, look at the length of those, like K-series, aren't they? About 40 foot long, so obviously they've got to come all the way through these spacers into the threads in here. So I've got everything covered. I think we've got a nice new Miles Castellini cam carrier. I've had the cam done and a new cam ground, it's quite a hairy one. Obviously I've cheated a bit on the head because the head is an existing head and I've been saving it for something good. It's an Andy Chesman, let me see, 659 is it? It's basically a big valve head. I was just waiting for the guides to arrive. We'll have to machine it, redo the wheel ring grooves. It's already a big valve head. We'll have to put the support screws in. The reason I chose this head for this customer is it's an original good spec massive port head, but it's had no war, so there's no welding or signs of like collisions with pistons or anything. I think it had a really easy time. It came with my space framing that I bought, so I thought that would be a good head to put on this 1200 and make good use of it. So that's the 1200 basically in a nutshell. Next week hopefully we'll have a bit more on it. We'll have hopefully a bit of a dry build on the bottom end and the head built up and the seats cut, etc., with the new guides in. So yeah, that's that. We've got one more engine to talk about, then you can get on with your popcorn. Okay, YouTubers, this is the third engine I wanted to talk about, and this is the 5 bearing engine that I've been working on for some time now. Now obviously we've had to get rods made and everything organised for it. The crank did come with it, to be fair. The owner of the engine organised that. Now I've organised some liners for it. Now these are a bit special. These are what we call ductile liners. Now originally all my other engines just use a standard centrifugally cast spun liner that I buy from Westwood Liners, but you may remember early in the year, the hardcore YouTubers amongst you, we had a bit of an issue with a liner that corroded and split on Simon Benoit's engine at his first race meeting of the year at Donington. So after that happened, the chap who owns this engine sort of said, look, if there's a better material, I'd rather have it. So Simon's just stuck with the cast iron because he said it lasted 10 years, so he wasn't too fussed about it. But this chap has invested in a set of ductile iron liners. Now they have a different sort of makeup over the centrifugally cast spun liner. They have, I think it's called manganese and a higher carbon content and various bits that make them what they make them, but they're really good apparently for like turbo cars and stuff where the cylinders are under a lot of pressure. Apparently they're 3 times stronger than a standard liner. So I've had these made, so my next step will be to fit these into this engine, machine it all up. There's a bit of material to be removed before all that happens. Just to talk about this, I've done a bit of a dry build. That's the little slipper piston. Now, I don't even remember the head I've got for this engine is the head with the deep angle ports on it. It's not actually here, it's at home, but I'll obviously, when I've worked out because the valves are on a steeper angle, so what we'll do is, or should I say a shallower angle, when I've worked out the angle, I'll put the pistons in the milling machine and we'll do the cutouts. These pistons have material in the back of them to support them, so we can safely cut sort of a 200 thou depth valve clearance in the pistons, no problem. So we've got all that to do. Obviously the high compression, you see the intruder, I'm not sure how much of that will be remaining. This is actually a special sandcast block. For those of you that haven't been on the channel before, or if you're new and you haven't seen this when we've talked about it in the past, it was recast by a chap called Colin Gunton. The Guntons, they did all this quite a few years ago, but if you look you'll see it has the extra bearings to support the crankshaft. Obviously in Hillman normally has 3 main bearings, so we get a bit of whip, you know, as it starts to do big RPM. Obviously with the extra bearing supports, we will support the crankshaft superbly. So this should be a 10,000 RPM engine quite safely. With we get all our reciprocating masses correct to the weight of them. What I'll do is I've got an engine here which is what this is copied from, because Roots Group used a 5 bearing engine back in the day as a prototype for their rally, but it all got dropped unfortunately because Roots was in trouble at the time, and obviously it wasn't long after it got took over by Chrysler, so it all got ditched, but a few of the engines survived, and I have one here, so I'll show you next the engine that this was copied from. Right, okay, this is the very early, I think around about 1965, early imp engine. You can see it's a curly edge block, but this is a very rare casting because it is a 5 bearing casting, so it doesn't have all the supports that an imp has as a die cast engine. You know, so if we look at this one here, you can see there's a lot more to it, and it's very rough finish, so that I think denotes that it's a sand casting rather than a low pressure die casting. But the interesting thing is this is a 5 bearing unit as well, one of I think 5 that survived from 10 that were made, from what I understand. That's what I know of roughly 3 or 4 of them anyway, or where they are. Now the thing that really interested me was the intermediate bearings don't have an oil feed, so the main gallery supplies oil to here, here and here, but what has to happen is the oil comes fed in here high pressure, it comes to the big end, then it has to go against centrifugal force to the centre line of the crankshaft to lubricate these bearings. So that for me was just like, ugh, not a chance. We're gonna have to sort that out. So what we're gonna do as a first operation is we're gonna drill from here, this is the main oil gallery here, and we're gonna drill through to the main gallery so that all of the bearings receive their own personal oil feed. And what I found quite alarming was that new one we just looked at didn't have them holes drilled either, which you know, it obviously worked, but it's not for me. I want a good supply of oil evenly to every main bearing on the crankshaft. So that's an original one. I think there's nothing more to say about that for the time being. That's obviously mine, and one day I have got the complete engine. I will build it up. I just need some spare time. Next we're going to look at this, which is I've just dug an old gearbox out. This is a Mark 5 casing, which I'm going to use as just to put in the Husky as a tester. And this is the engine from last week off the dyno. That was the 930cc with the modified crankshaft. So we've seen all that, we know all about that. It did 60 foot-pounds, so I'm literally going to plonk that in the back of the Husky next now with you guys, and hopefully we'll go for a drive in it before the end of play today. Just thought I'd wake the neighbours up in case they were a nice peaceful day. No, we're joking, they're really good round here. I just thought I'd do a bit of an update on this engine in case anyone was interested. this is the engine that we did the offset ground pin on. So it had the motorcycle pistons and rods in it, which were a 35mm big end pin. Obviously we were at the 42 being an imp, so I offset machined the crankshaft to give us a 65mm stroke, so that we could make an 1120cc engine all inside a standard height block. So that's what that is. It is a good 10 episodes ago. But basically this has been on test. I did use it in Jersey on the live demo, and then when the granite wall jumped out in front of me, that was the engine that was in it then. And then we had the national weekend, and I thought, oh, you know what, I wouldn't mind putting some time on it just to see how it behaves. So I put it in the Husky with a close ratio gearbox, and we went to Wales, and obviously being low ratio, without breaking the speed limit, it was able to hold it for like quite a long period of time at sort of 8,000 RPM on the motorway, and yeah, no problems at all. I'm really impressed with the engine, so much to the fact now that I'm thinking of putting it in the race car and entering a race with it, or maybe we'll do a track day with it. So obviously I want to see if it works, but at the same time it's so sweet, I don't want to destroy it. So anyway, that, in case you're wondering, that's the head as well that I did when I was working with Bob. That's the downdraft head, the one where we put the tubes in the side under the cam carrier that goes straight to the back of the valve port. So this is going to come out now, and we're going to put a 930 in. I just thought I'd do a quick update on it in case anyone's interested. Okay chaps, hope you enjoyed the time lapse there. Just sort of give you an update on where I'm up to. I'm about 15-20 minutes in. Obviously most important thing with jacking an imp up is that you use a piece of wood to spread the load, otherwise you make a right mess of the floor pan, you know, because the angle of the jack foot there sticks in. Obviously safety's paramount, so we always put an extra support in under the car before even thinking about getting underneath it. Now the beauty of an imp is you can take the engine and box out in like under an hour. It's probably the reason why one of the reasons why I love them so much, because you can just fix them no problem. Now, just to go through step by step, I've undone the pinch bolt inside here, which is the one that holds the gear linkage on, and I've gone inside the car, given it a waggle till it fell off. I've undone the two 3/8 UNF 9/16 head bolts that hold the gearbox mounts on. I've also undone the donut joint bolts and just pushed them through so that the drive shaft is now free. So when I load the jack down, I can literally put the jack under here next and just slide it out. Also, whilst I was here, I've undone this bottom bell housing bolt, because when you come to undo that on the floor, it's quite hard, because obviously the floor is sat here. So done all that. Great. Well, next thing will be to do the top half, and we should be on the floor in under an hour. Okay, as you just seen, we've taken the 1120 out, and I've got the 930 fire pump stroke B1 Sunbeam engine ready to go in, all converted. So this is a gear. I'll start the gearbox then. This is a standard Mark 5 gearbox that I've just selected from the pile. I've just literally gone through it, made sure it turns freely, feels smooth. It's got all 4 gears and reverse. What I do is I just put them in the Husky when I change the engine, and I run them for a week. 9 times out of 10 they jump out of gear or crunch into a gear, and they end up in a pile with the fault written on them, ready for when we start rebuilding them one day. But every now and again we get one, we put it in, it's a belter. So if it turns out to be a belter, what we'll do is do 100 mile plus in it or whatever, take it out, clean it all, I take the end cover off, put the 2 nuts back up to the correct torque with some Loctite. I put a new O-ring in the this is the shaft that selects the gears, the gear selector shaft. Put a new O-ring on there, 2 new output shaft seals and a new input shaft seal as well. and then I sell them on to people who need a good known quantity gearbox, because obviously if you're not doing the gearbox change yourself, you've got to pay a garage to do it. It can be quite expensive testing and sieving through gearboxes to find a good one. Anyway, I put a release bearing in, standard one, and I've got a completely standard flywheel. That's a full thickness one, because like I said, I keep banging on, I want this to be a completely standard swap, so everything standard bolts onto the engine. The engine has all the compromises in it, making it suitable for the imp rather than making the imp suit the wrong engine. So we've got the obviously you can see we've got the, for those that haven't seen it before, we've got the bearing, the sealed bearing in the back there, dialed up, blah blah. We'll put that on with some Loctite, and I'm going to run the Talbot Sunbeam starter motor as well, and hopefully we'll get a tune out of it in the next hour or so. Okay chaps, on the final stages now of getting the new 930 in. I've got to do the donut joint, so I thought a lot of people swerve doing these, but they're actually quite good fun, he says. So get the wheel in the air, make sure it's in no handbrake on, and also get it so that the donut joint is able to spin, so it's in neutral like that. So all we need to do is we need to push it over so that we've got it in a position like that. I'm trying to do it one-handed. The first bolt, real easy, you can just push it through in theory. I've got a pry bar here that I just use on the back, so that's the first bolt in position. Oops, it's quite tricky with one hand and a rip glove, but standard donuts are no problem at all, especially with the standard bolts as well. Might be worth noting, you see these bolts, these are old school bolts, these, and the modern shiny ones are just not hard enough. They're rubbish. In fact, there's an example. The original donut joint bolt has that diameter at the end of it, you see it there. This is actually a Nylock, this is actually a cheap one. It's this one you want to be using. That's an original imp donut, and when you torque them you can tell a difference. These ones are a bit rubbery, the Nylock on them. The original ones with the steel retainer, they feel nice when you torque them. So that's that. Now what I'm going to try and do is try and show you how we hook the second one. So the gap at the top, whoops, I'm using a ring spanner 5/8. I hook it round the top of the bolt onto the head of the bolt, sorry, and then that gives you the leverage. See how I've just clipped it in the end of the hole there, see it wiggling. So take your spanner off, try and give it a push, but it probably won't move, and then bring it round, and as it comes round you can see it's eager to go in the hole. Pry bar behind there again. That's your second one, and if we look now, that should be the top one, needs to go on next. So once again, ring spanner at the top, hook it round the top of the head of the bolt, and see I've just got him into the location. I'll spin the whole lot just so he gets a bit closer. There you go, he's stuck in there. Get hold of the wheel. Look at that, flown together. Pry bar. There you go. And all that remains to do now is torque these up. It does say it's 3/8 UNF. With the original nuts you can go to 38 foot-pound. I just go 35 and they feel really good then. So never a problem when they're all taught. Not that I want to get involved with an argument with anybody, but all I'll say is the imp donuts are no problem at all as long as you maintain them. These bolts, you think of the torque going through them, they twist, they flex, they settle. When they work loose, they snap. When they snap, the donut joint fails. It's very, very rare you'll find a donut joint failed without one bolt broken because the bolt let go first. The only time I've ever seen it where they had all 6 bolts still intact and the donut failed was when the donut was of a rubbish quality. Right chaps, well the 9:30's in. I haven't had a chance to go for a drive in it, I'm afraid. I've completely run out of time and this is all just lashed together so I could get a tune out of it. It's on. I put the ignition on, so if I just press the button here, it runs sweet as a nut. That's my ignition cut, by the way. Right, yeah, just thought I'd let you hear it and see. It's quite sweet. I hope it drives nice and I hope the gearbox is okay. But I've just completely run out of time. It's time to go home now. Got my bucket of tools there, and me and my mate were having a laugh about that because we used to take a bucket in the scrapyards years ago and we used to go looking for Alfa Romeos with the Lortos on. We always had a bucket of tools. This is an engine that I was going to talk about for a second because this is what that engine was destined to be. It was going off to Godiva or whatever to be converted into a fire pump. So you can see straight away, you'll recognise the oil filter housing with the 55 psi. It's a slightly different size hex, bigger hex on it. So that's the same oil filter housing. Obviously, I'm trying to think of other things that are recognisable, but it's got the same ignition system on it. So it's got this Talbot Sunbeam and the ballast resist the same as what I've got, and the starter motor is the same. So yeah, interesting. But they have changed the dipstick to a different type of dipstick. That's interesting because the one that's on this, I've left this on because I think it's really good. It sort of brings it all to the top. I don't know how it'll work in the imp. We've got to remark it, but much easier access on the Husky. I know the Husky's meant to have one that goes to here, like, but anyway, there you go. It's up and running. So we'll call that another hour's work and it'll be ready for a test drive, and we'll do a full test drive with the camera in the car and report back next week. Okay, YouTubers, congratulations, you've made it to the end of Shrigleytube TV. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and sorry we didn't get to do a test drive in the Husky. I will get one next week and we'll get the camera mounted properly so that it's safe and you can see how the engine drives and if it's any good or not. Okay, brilliant. I look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 7. Have a great week. Bye for now.